All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to enter our last outlook before we go into our General Assembly and then our closing ceremony. Peas, of course, are a huge part of the pulse industry, and I'd like to thank our session sponsor for sponsoring this, this section of our program. Societe Cofica is our session sponsor. We have a great panel to talk about the future and present condition of our pea industry. Ozan Öztürk, Brian Clancy, Nick Potney, Kevin Price, Mike Allaire, and Bimal Kathani are going to be with us. And to our moderator, the famous, infamous, good friend of mine, Sudhakar Tomar, who is the managing director of Khan Agro. He has a special program. He's setting up a presidential debate and auction. It should be outstanding. So please welcome to the stage our Global Pea Outlook panel. Sudhakar.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yugular. Welcome to Chashme. Chashme, hoş geldiniz. We'll do these greetings a little bit more so that we can have more people in the room. We have today the mother of all panel discussions. Why I say this is because the peas are traded about 5.5 million tons out of 15 million tons of trade, so it's pretty much 40% of the global trade. But that is not the main reason. The other thing is the most distinguished set of panelists we have here. So the combined experience of my panelists is over 140 years. And I would not go to individual figures, but they do pretty much more than 1.5 million tons of peas. So this is as good as it can get. So this is your chance to grill them, grind them, and find out your questions and the prizes which you want to know about the peas. And it's also a very interesting panel discussion because we have an amazing talent. We have among us, including me, a geologist and also an aspiring poet, that's me. We have 2 marathon runners. We have someone who collects vintage stamps. We also have someone who has an amazing collection of more than 5,000 vinyl records, just vinyl records. And also technically qualified, very technical engineer. So, and someone who also believes in shoe therapy. So I'll introduce one by one all my panels. And then the flow will be, we will do, can I have the next slide, please? But before I do that, this is our usual disclaimer. That means all the opinions and whatever they say, it is purely their personal opinion. It may or may not reflect necessarily of their organizations. And if you rely on that information, if you have any losing situation, please do not blame us. So this is deliberately, it is made so short and they're small so that you don't really, that's the whole purpose of disclaimers anyway. Next slide, please. So this is how we're going to do. We'll briefly, Brian will look at global S&D, some quick numbers because they're very important. And after that, we will have quick comments from all the panelists. And then we will divide the panelists into bearish and bullish groups. And then we'll do some robust debate with each other. And then we will see what is the outcome of that by the show of hands from our attendees and our delegates. And after that, we'll try to do some live auctions. Let's see how it goes. So let me introduce my panelists. On my extreme left, we have Nick. Nick is my friend from Australia. He was born at a very young age. He has a very good philosophy in life. He says, before you criticize someone, you must walk in their shoes for 1 mile. This way, when you criticize them, you'll be far away from them, and you'll be wearing the shoes. And when he's not doing walking in the shoe therapy, he is overseeing operations of Grain Corp Australia, over 20 million tons of storage and merchandising of pulses and grains in Australia. On his right is Ozan Ozturk, who's from Agrozan Commodities, Dubai. Please do not get technical with him because he has a degree in technical engineering. Next to him is my friend Mike Keller. He's a bilingual trader. He can answer your questions in French. So those who would like to ask him questions in French, they're most welcome to do that. I was surprised, he has 18 years of experience. I don't know how did he do that because he looks 18. So next to him is Kevin Price. Kevin has an amazing qualification. He has more than 5,000 vinyl records. And these are very, 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 very expensive vinyl records. And he's also husband to a strong and beautiful wife, so he tells me. And when he's not following orders, he looks after the AgroCorp operations in 4 locations. And next to him is my guru and old friend from India, Mr. Bimal Kothari. I have learned pretty much of my pulses talking to him for a very long time. And he has a very unusual hobby of collecting very expensive vintage postages from the British India period. And when he's not doing that, he's acting as a very proactive vice chairman of India Pulses Grain Association. And he comes from a very illustrious family of Kothari family, which is a very old family name in India. Then, sitting just my immediate left is Mr. Brian Clancy, who's not unknown to anyone. He's the founder of StatPub, but he has been writing probably one of the major source of independent reports since 1970. And he also has some kind of specialization in losing his luggage. Whenever he comes to Turkey, he loses his luggage. But fortunately, the luggage has come back, and we can see it has come back. So how we're going to do, Brian, is just small, short S&D with those slides, and then we go into the comments and other things. So can we have the presentation of Mr. Clancy on the piece?
No, it's still not my slides. I have an overwhelming sense of deja vu. I feel like I've been here before. Someone was joking and saying that all I've done is I've used the same slides from this morning, and I'm just instead of saying chickpeas, I'll just say peas. Almost there will be this illusion that it's what it is. Oh no, yeah. I think it's the same thing that we've gone through a couple of years of really, really strong prices for pulses, which have driven interest in them. We've seen record grower bids in Canada and the United States for peas, yellow peas, but for green peas, the prices have been much lower, and that's helped pull land into the crops this year. Again, you saw this slide this morning, which is the World Price Index comparison. Pulses are outperforming grains and oilseeds right now, and I think that'll continue into 2017, but it's hard to say how long into 2017, because we'll see the other crops recover. Pulse price comparison. I've put yellow peas in this one, and yellow peas are tracking fairly well with the rest of the pulse market in the world. They're following them up, and they're not lagging in any way, and in fact they're showing some signs of leadership. And this makes some sense in terms of the Canadian index, because peas are a very important contributor to that index, while lentils are on the other side. Whole yellow pea prices. What you can see is I mentioned that the grower bids for whole yellow peas reached record levels this past year, but the export market did not reach record levels. And the only reason there's this, you can think it doesn't work that way, but exports are in US dollars, grower bids are in Canadian dollars, and the weakness of the Canadian dollar helped an awful lot in the price that was being paid to farmers in Canada. High prices in the United States were reflecting other set of circumstances, which was part of it has to do with the strong domestic market, part of it has to do with the strength of the government buying for food aid, especially for yellow split peas. Green peas, if you recall the other slide, you can see green peas have just not performed the same. Prices for green peas have been at a discount to yellow for several months. That will probably continue for a little bit longer, but at a certain point that spread between the two will narrow, with yellow pea prices probably coming down and green peas moving up. And then green peas may cross over and move back to a premium to yellow perhaps in 2017 at some point in time. And it needs to happen because the interest in growing green peas is fading in Canada in particular, and to a certain extent in the United States. And so that's, pushing, yellow pea area is growing rapidly, green pea area is going down, and eventually there'll just be a supply crunch in the green peas that will pull land in, and that's expressed through price. This year, Canada and the United States will both plant record areas of field peas. It sounds like talking to people that the Canadian area may not change dramatically from the Statistics Canada Seeding Intentions Report. If anything, it could end up a little bit lower than was forecast by StatsCan, and that's just simply because of more land going into red lentils than farmers had indicated, and so that may affect peas a little bit in the southern part of Saskatchewan, but the northern part of Saskatchewan is probably having no impact on peas. So there's just a bit of shifting around, but with farmers sticking with pulses, but shifting what they're growing. In the world, we're looking at the potential for a 700,000 hectare increase in field pea production for dry field peas, with gains in Canada in particular, the United States in particular, and increases in France. The carry-ins have been declining in recent years. You can see last season started with a carry-in of almost 1 million tons, or residual supply of almost 1 million tons from the previous marketing year. That's been cut almost in half during this season, and so the consequence of that is that supply, while overall supply is up, could be up significantly, ending stocks, carry-ins, residual supplies won't make a big contribution to that. When I'm doing these things, I use long-term average yields to do production forecasts, and with that in mind, you can see that the forecast gain in production is greater than the forecast gain in seeded area, and that's because last year's average yields were below average in some of the major production areas. World trade in peas should be up again this season, and I think the focus will probably be more on the fall shipping periods through the end of this calendar year. And once we get into 2017, then we face some of the real risks that the field pea market is facing, which is what happens to the crop and rabi pulse production in India, next year's seeding area. And if this year's monsoon is average or above average, I think if it's above average, and even if the timing is not right for the Kharif crop, it will have a positive impact on interest in seeding the rabi crop, which is the one that field pea markets would pay the most attention to because that's the one they compete with. That means that the impact that we're seeing in trade this year and the opening season impact on trade reflects the rabi crop that was planted at the beginning of the year, and next year's trade will be affected by the rabi crop, which is planted this winter. However, I think that you'll begin to see if the area is up significantly and there's optimism about yields in India and Pakistan, that you'll see buying interest start to pull back in maybe February or March, and just demand just be easier. It's not that India won't buy a lot of stuff, but is that maybe instead of 5 million tons, it becomes 4 million tons, and that even though it's a significant quantity, given the increase in supply and pulses in the world, it allows them to take a more disciplined approach to buying and a more relaxed approach to price, and to wait on the market a little bit. And that could be dangerous, that could result in a certain amount of price deterioration as buyers begin to be anxious and chase demand. Production, as you can see, Canada's up significant, could be up significantly, could be up 1 million tons. The United States up 300,000. France up. The gains in France have a lot to do with the changes in the policy of the French government towards supporting domestic protein production to stop its reliance on soybean meal. However, it gives them more peas to export, and so France's capacity to compete in world markets is improving, and we're seeing that in increased export activity. The other one that there's growth in is Russia, and with Russia it's very difficult to know exactly what they're producing. There are no real good official statistics, and I think that there's a lot of controversy over the numbers. What we try to do is look at the export activity in the country and look at the historic proportion that might have been consumed domestically, and use that to help come up with some acreage estimates or production estimates that make sense, and use that for forecasting. And then forecasting includes factors for what we see as growing interest in peas in the world, and it exists in Russia as well. Canada is the world's most important field pea producer, export producer, and so what happens there is critically important. You can see that area is up. It is record area, up from 1.5 to 1.7 million hectares. Production has the potential of being up over 1 million tons, and that would be a return to average yields. I use 5-year average yields there. So if there are any weather issues during the growing season, that will affect the production outcome. Canada's carry-in should be nominal this summer. I know some people feel that Canada's sold out, but I can't figure out how. Farmers may not be happy to sell product, which can create the illusion of no supply on the farm. And farmers will lie about their supply just to make people stop calling them. So it can be difficult to know what farmers have actually got. However, at 10% supply stocks to use ratio, we're not looking at having a dramatic amount of stocks, only a month's supply, which means that delays to the harvest, any delays to the harvest or issues with that are going to affect the beginning of the shipping season out of Canada. So we need, we are starting the year with limited stocks, and we can argue about what the stock level is, but it is tight, and that's playing a role in keeping markets firm through the end of this marketing year. And that's, to summarize, we're seeing increased competition. I think we'll see increased competition for demand in the coming marketing year. And I think there's a potential that prices could ease before farmers are making their seeding decisions in 2017, which could see a supply response in the other way, which farmers reducing pea area into next year, and that could result in a reduction of supply then. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. So now we'll have quick comments from the panelists, and then as we discussed before, we'll go into the bearish and bullish. So we'll present the whole picture in front of the audience with all the factors which we think are contributing to bearish and bullish scenario, and then we take it up from there. So Nick, Desi chickpeas has an important perceived correlation with yellow peas. But when we look at the chart, it's not really so. I mean, it is kind of detached. Sometimes it's high. Let's look at this chart. Yes. So this is the spread between Desi chickpeas and yellow peas prices in India, which is the largest consuming market. This is a differential in terms of rupees. So you've seen sometimes the difference is 1 rupee, a kilo, or say 1,000 rupees quintal, to 0. So that this has not really remained very correlated. So could you give us some comments on those ones?
Not really. Look, I think this is one of the conundrums that we face too, and something that we have to keep tabs on. But it's also a chart that, although we've been watching it and monitoring it fairly closely over the years, the relationship is fairly tenuous. And that is something that, as much as I search, I can ask 10 different people from India how they see that relationship between chickpea interplaying with yellow pea. Also, the answers are inconsistent. You can ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers. What we do know is that with the chickpea, and chickpeas, this is not the chickpea panel, this is the pea panel, obviously, but it's definitely something that interplays with our pea complex in Australia. This relationship, I guess, is something that I was hoping to discuss with the panel today. We can see that the utilisation of chickpeas between what is used for splits, what is used for flours, and what is used for a whole chickpea. Of that, the elastic and inelastic demand, again, different opinions, but this is a better chart, I think, is more descriptive of that interplay. You know, could 20% of the chickpea be replaced by yellow pea? Is that a realistic number? Maybe, and if so, you know, of a 8 million tonne consumption, if it is that in India of chickpea, does that mean that, you know, 2 million tonnes could be replaced fairly easily with yellow pea? There seems to be a very constant, good, strong supply of yellow pea, whereas the chickpea is obviously limited. So is 2 million tonnes replacement a realistic number? Is it high or is it lower? That's something that we need to watch.
That, I think, depends on the need for greed, how much we want to mix in chickpeas and desi chickpeas in terms of besan and flour and other things. Moving on to Ozan, give us some perspective from Black Sea and the Russian side, and some comments on how you see the market.
Before Ozan, I'll just do a quick mention of the Australian pea production, if that's okay.
Please.
Look, if you were in the desi chickpea discussion before, and Peter Wilson, he quite rightly mentioned the dry conditions. That is a real concern up in the north. Down in the south, where we produce more of the dun peas, Casper peas, the moisture profile has been terrific. Growers have had one of the best starts of the season. This is also, you could extrapolate this for our lentils and our faba beans as well, but this is where the field peas are. The crop last year was very disappointing. That was the driest regions in Australia. We probably only produced maybe 200,000 tonnes of peas in total, so it's very, very limited. Most of that was consumed locally. But this season, you know, planting intentions, what farmers are telling us is probably 10 to 15% higher. With the soil moisture profile, most of them have got that seed in between 2 and 4 inches of good moisture. So we could be looking at a 350, 400,000 tonne crop this season. So all going well, and at the moment, one of the best starts in about 10 years. So straight to you.
Before Black Sea, I want to make a comment about this chart. If you look at the chart, we see the yellow pea prices are always fluctuating in a very small range. 2,500 rupee per quintal, irrespective of what the Indian rupee versus US dollar was in the last 5 years. We do not see huge fluctuations because it is a proper supply and demand market, supply and demand product. However, when we look at the desi, I just wonder, and I forecast also, if we didn't have NCDX, we should have a different chart for the desi chickpeas prices. That is how I feel. Because you see a product trading in between 3,000 to 6,000 rupee. It is nearly doubling its bottom and up levels, but in the yellow pea we don't see it. That is my personal view. NCDX has a little bit speculative effect in the market. Instead of a proper supply-demand chart, we see more psychological chart over there. If we come to the point of Black Sea, this year we will hopefully be receiving good crops in the Black Sea region. From the domestic price level-wise, Russian ruble or Ukrainian hryvnia, the farmers had fantastic returns on the peas and the chickpeas. I don't want to go in details for chickpeas, but for the yellow peas, and especially if we consider the cash crop prices, grain, cereals, and other oilseeds till the last 2-3 months, there was not a satisfying level for the farmers, but they made good margins on the peas and specialty crops. And there is another thing, not only Russia, this year, starting from last year, we started to see a lot of alternative origins, Baltic origins coming up. This year we hear Romania and Bulgaria more. We will have good supply. I agree with the production figures, but my personal estimate, we will have around 450,000 tons of crop from Baltic region. Russia, I do estimate around 1.7 to 1.8 million ton production. Ukraine, 600,000 ton, which will be more than last year. And if you say Moldova, Romania, and Bulgaria, we will have another 200,000 ton, which will be a lot of alternative supply, and we will have alternative origins competing with the regular suppliers.
The production figures? It's a bit dated. It has been provided by, from Nick, this came from left field commodities, right? This, the differential, yeah, from left field commodities, Czech Pena.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Mike, what is your take on from the Canadian side, and also some perspective on the US as well?
On the Canadian side, we're completely sold out. I'll disagree with Mr. Clancy to a certain degree. On the yellow peas, anyways, I talked to many commercial brokers and line companies, and they aren't able to put another bulk vessel together. There's simply not enough yellow peas out there to put 50,000 tons together, and we're just at the end of May here. The carryover that we will see into next year's crop will be green peas. I think most of the miscellaneous items, as well as like maple peas and marrow fats and red peas, I think they're all sold out as well. From the new crop side, or actually, if I go into the new crop side here and talk about next year's productions, I'll also comment that the yields that are being used are the 5-year averages. Those 5-year averages average about 37 bushels per acre. If you take the 2013 bumper crop out, you're looking at about 34.5. So, I agree with Brian in a way when he says that some of the pea acres are maybe overstated. Some of them will go into lentils. So I think the acres might be even a little bit further down. I also think the yields that we're using at this point are a little on the high side. So that could affect 200,000 tons roughly. So I'm looking at the crop being more like a 4 million ton crop as we see it today, rather than a 4.3, 4 point, a little bit higher. I guess at the end of the day, I don't know what's at the end of the day. Actually, that's all I have to comment, unless you have other questions.
Kevin?
Yeah, I was asked to talk about two things: the U.S. Production a little bit, and then China.
Yes.
U.S. Not much different than Canada. We're looking at 20% increase in acres. For old crop, there's nothing left. Very little stocks out there, so very similar to Canada. 20% increase. Most of that increase is coming in yellow peas, so no big surprise there. For new crop, we're looking at we understand that maybe 150 to 200,000 tons has been contracted already for fall new crop in vessels. So I see a continued supply increase in the U.S. For China, China's normal demand is around 900,000 tons. Roughly 800,000 tons of that is yellow pea, 750, 800,000, and green peas about 100 to 120,000 tons. This year, They've imported more green peas than normal. The yellow pea price, China was late to the table in accepting the higher prices. And they imported probably an extra 50,000 tons of green peas as substitution, also some feed use as well. So the overburden of supply that Canada has had over the last couple of years in green peas is starting to get absorbed into the market. So we expect China's demand to be relatively similar as last year. Their economy is better, and the traders made money last year, which is completely different than it was the year before that, when it was very difficult trading into the market.
Very good. Vimalji, give us some gyan from the motherland of all pulses.
For last two poor monsoon, the production of pulses in general has been badly hit in India. That is, for all pulses, not only tuor and urad, which is the pigeon peas and black mape, but all other pulses have been badly hit. So we had imported a record, there has been a record import last year, in the last financial year. India imported about 5.79 million tons of all the pulses, which has been record till such time. And this year also has been badly affected by, the crops has been badly affected by the monsoon. The poor monsoon. So we are also going to see a good number of imports. So far the yellow peas is concerned, you see, during the normal weather conditions, India produces about 600 to 700,000 tons of yellow peas. And our supply, we are basically the dependent supply from the overseas market, which comes from Canada, Russia, and Ukraine, and all the other origins. So I think we are importing about 2.5 million tons of yellow peas annually, and due to the supply constraint from the origins presently, as the most of the peas are sold out and not available in the world market also. So I see some supply constraint in the next coming 2-3 months. But as I'm looking at the world production, I feel that we are going to have a lot of supply, because I understand almost 20 vessels has been contracted, more than 20 vessels has been contracted, besides few thousand containers. So I foresee that from September onwards, we will have a huge flow of yellow peas into the market, and I will see the prices to be going down gradually. So this is what I feel about the yellow peas.
Okay, so now we have a general snapshot or some kind of sense into the run-up from the current crop, high prices, to the new crop with record production in many origin. So now the fun starts. So I will, now we'll divide the group into two segments, the bullish and bearish. So, and then we will, it may not be necessarily their opinion, but at least they will be able to tell you all the factors which are bearish factors and all the factors which are bullish factors, and then we see how it goes. So, Mike. Maybe Brian, if you can come here, I'll sit in the middle so that there is no fight. Bearish? Bearish? All bullish? I have to sit in the middle. Okay, then you be in the middle. Yeah, then you do the, you're neutral. Okay, so then you come here in the middle. This is the safe path of least resistance. So, please. So let's start with Bimalji. Why do you think we'll be bearish?
You see,
so we'll do one point, and then we go to other side, and that's how we do it. And if there's any rebuttal, we can do that.
Yes, Sudhakar, presently there is a supply constraint, as I mentioned, because there is not much material available from the world market. And since our crop was badly hit, so we have huge demand of the pulses. But I see that once the new crops arrives in the overseas market in Canada and Russia and all other places, and as I mentioned that a lot of cargo has been contracted, and all this will start arriving from September onwards. So normally I've seen, this is not the first time it has happened. If I see for last 8-10 years, this trend has been happening, that during the period from March to August, the prices remain quite either higher or stable. But during the period of September to December, the prices always come down because of the heavy arrival of these yellow peas into the Indian market. And Indian market cannot absorb that much of the quantity which comes at a time. So I am very bearish on the prices. I see that there is a use inflow, and that the market, though despite we have the shortage, but still, that kind of the supply will definitely, affect the prices.
Nick, how would you, Mike, any of you can rebuttal for this one? Yeah.
Look, just on that point, I guess the difference, I agree with quite a few of the aspects, and I do see quite a wave coming into India, but the thing I think that weighs on our mind is the impact of government intervention this season and how that's going to, I guess, thin out the pipeline stocks and keep things fairly firm. That is the big question mark for us. That's the big difference now, I think, this season.
Right. Yeah, that's a very important point. I've been hearing some comments from the many panelists here and outside that when the government intervenes in different measures in terms of rates or stock limits or setting up MRPs, so it does have a dampening effect on the prices, definitely for the short term, but then supply does get squeezed in the time being, and it gets, so eventually the overall S&Ds are not really helped. Mike, would you like to elaborate more on that one, or any other point which you think is very forceful for your argument?
From our side, I think there are quite a few sales on the books already. There are a lot of rumors out there, but I'm pretty confident that over 1.1 million tons of peas have already been sold on the yellow pea side. That's a third of the yellow pea crop out of Canada that's already sold. In addition to that, I think there's obviously some short coverage that needs to be done. Growers seem to have sold what they have wanted to sell thus far. Now that they're finished seeding, I think there's 90 days until harvest. I think they want to give it some time and maybe see how the crop progresses. I think there's always the lingering La Nina thoughts in our minds that we could get a lot of rain in Canada that could create disease and whatnot for our crop. I think it's something we need to monitor as we move along. As I mentioned before, old crop is sold out, of course. Another thing to add is new markets. Myanmar seems to be a huge market this year. We're seeing a lot of demand from Myanmar that we haven't seen in the past. It's heavy, for container traffic. It seems like it's about 75,000 tons, maybe to 100,000 tons. It's all new crop demand that we're seeing. Another thing, I guess, would be if we're going to look at all varieties, China has been a huge importer of green peas this year. I would say 50% higher than normal, and that's lower quality green peas, max 10%. But it has been a huge factor. Another thing I would like to add also is new varieties. We're talking about a 4 million ton crop in Canada, but of that 4 million, we have new varieties like the red pea. SAS Pulse Growers developed a red pea. Ilta-Grain has the rights to that. We're looking at marketing about 40,000 tons this year. That's a pretty big increase, considering 2.5 years ago there was no such thing. And then again, we can't ignore the maple peas, the marifats, the dun peas. Those are in high demand, and growers aren't ignoring them. They're getting the premium for them.
Kevin, what makes you bearish in this demand? Whatever I understood from Mike is that goods have been contracted, and because they have been contracted for a very short or a narrow opening in the new crop, so that will put pressure on the supply side.
Yeah, Mike makes some really good points. I would say I'm mildly bearish if I'm gonna tiptoe into it. It's really tough to argue against 2 million tons extra in the market. And
this the potential increase.
Sorry. of course, potential. No, you're right. The potential increase of it, for sure. I think we have to distinguish, and I'm going to speak from the Canadian perspective for a second, as we are the largest grower. You have to make the difference between what the prices are going to happen overseas and what the prices are going to happen domestically. There's a lot of front-loaded demand, and there's a lot of shorts in the market right now. And so there's going to be a flurry of activity from September until probably into November. And those prices will remain high. So, and then after that, when all the product starts landing into the markets overseas, then we're expecting the market to come off. So, so again, but however, the market in Canada should remain relatively firm. It's going to be be different than what's happening overseas.
Is there any currency play which can affect the bearish and bullish scenario both in exporting and importing countries? Maybe Nick can put some light on that one. In importing countries, the currency depreciation in importing countries and the exporting countries as well? Will that have a play on the prices?
I don't think there will be any price impact because of the bearish or bullish trend because of the currency fluctuation. It is mainly because of the demand and supply gap. So as I mentioned that we are going to use supply from September onwards. So the Indian market will be flooded with the yellow peas, and that's why I feel a bearish trend will prevail at least for a few months, beginning from September.
Weather concerns? Any weather concerns in?
Yeah, definitely. If there is we are expecting a very good monsoon this year. So that will also play a vital role in softening the prices because that will have a psychological and sentimental effect on the prices. And if the weather conditions are normal and all the crops are good in the origins and the exporting countries, then I think we are going to see a good crop. Or if there is some concern about the weather, then of course, if the crop numbers are reduced, then it will be a different ballgame then altogether.
From origin perspective, is there any weather concern which can potentially reduce the production or the yields? Is that a possibility from the origin countries? This question is for Nick and Mike, and maybe probably Ozan can say something, some safe comments.
Of course, we all have the same risk. We don't have Canadian crop, we don't have Black Sea crops. We all forecast as of today with normal circumstances. But if we consider weather concern into two parts, weather at the time of seeding and before seeding and weather after seeding, as of today it seems that before seeding or seeding period, there is no significant negative news, but we have to follow further on.
So if we were to list all the factors which are bullish, are that we have heard that in the origins and in the destination the carryover the supply is not much. There's less domestic production in India. No carryover of domestic production of other replacement crops as well. And historically we have seen good demand in India during rains as well as during festival seasons from now up to the run up to the new crop. And there's to some extent currency depreciation, although peas are usually in the destination, they are dollarized commodities, but we haven't really seen them following that trend. So it's not that when the market or the rupee or the currency, importing countries' currency goes down, that the prices follow. It's kind of detached itself from there. And but maybe one point which I think we were discussing earlier, maybe you'd like to put on, how the relation between the feed complex can that play a role in the prices of the peas, the feed prices versus the available prices of peas?
I don't know if it. I would say in Canada we've definitely we've had some pretty good crops over the last couple of years. The quality has been really good. What I can comment on that, so we of course we have feed, but is feed clean out from an elevator, or is it actual feed quality on the farm? If we're talking about yellow peas, the feed clean out, we're seeing an increased market share for that in the U.S. We're seeing, basically feed peas that we can take the FM out of. We're seeing that demand in the U.S. As we heard in the other panels before, there's increased demand for pet food manufacturers. So there's that extra destination, I guess, at this point. I think domestics are getting huge.
And on the bearish side, I could summarize that if there's a government action in the importing destinations, that puts temporary or short-term pressure on the prices, and of course, potential record crops in the origin countries, and if the destination has a good monsoon, so that will also make, as Brian says, 2017-18, that there'll be rebound on the supply. So now we have pretty much listed all the bullish and bearish factors. So maybe we see how our August audience thinks about it. So those who feel that market will be bearish or bullish, so let's first do those who feel the market will be bearish. If you can please raise your hands, don't be shy. This is so we have only one hand which says will be bearish. 2. Can I have some help in counting, Tim? Because I can't really, age is catching up with me, I can't see. Only one hand, please. And can we have now the show of hands, those who feel the other way? Opposite of bearish. That's why we have independent opinion. We don't count ourselves. So we got some signal from the audience. Now let's do another exercise. Let's see how that goes. So we are going to auction 2 lots. One lot is 5 containers of yellow peas. It's for the current crop, immediate shipment. There is a minimum reserve price. The destination is ranging from Jebel Ali, Dubai, to all the way to Indian subcontinent, all the way to Calcutta. Option is Canada, EU, Black Sea, seller's option, June or prompt shipment option. This is a firm sale, but if there is any problem, we have a very active GPC dispute resolution group. Andrew Jacobs' name is there with his mobile number. So, but this is, of course, not the real number. I'm just kidding. So, this is, we can bid. Everybody can bid. Panelists can bid. Audience can bid. Anybody can bid. Bids can be in the increment of minimum $5, can go up, and we will conclude the sale. We see. So this is for the current crop. Then we'll do another sale for the new crop. So, do I see some bids at this level for June shipment? Of course, we are the seller. I'm the seller. Just to test the market. I mean, so that the proof of pudding is in eating. I mean, we talk about all these numbers. It's in front of you. I know that you are not the buyer, but don't project your opinion on others. What is your bid, sir? No, this you have to increase. This is the minimum.
Okay. For you,
the whole idea of auction is to bid.
Okay, for you, no problem. $5 up.
Okay.
475.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other bids at more than 475 for the June shipment? Guys, you have a calculator, you can calculate the price. And with the domestic prices as well, you can. This is your chance. This is for prompt shipment. It's going to come now. You're going to make money now. You don't have to worry about futuristic weather, concerns, currencies, everything. Bimalji, this is again this audience, public. Okay, so this is going once, twice, sold. Let's do the next one. So this is for the new crop. This is for the new crop. Again, 5 containers, August, September shipment, minimum reserve price 390 in containers, same terms. Let's see if we have audience. What is the price, sir? 395. $400. I thought we could also increase more than 5. I see some hands there on the. Sorry, I thought they were just yawning. Do we have some more energetic? Please don't be shy. This is a chance. Is it 410? Sold. 1, 2, 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, please a very big round of applause for my panelists who have put their neck out and said the numbers which they wanted to say. Thank you very much. Appreciate your participation. And again, once again, thank the GPC, especially very energetic organization by our beloved president, Hussain Arslan Abi. And we really, really salute all the organization and also all those people, 650 people who came, defying the odds and against the threat. A big round of applause for them. They have shown that we should be industry, we should be brave and bold and without any fear.
Very good. Thank you, Sudhakar, for a great panel, and thank to all of our panelists. We have a small gift for you as you leave the stage, so please, I'd like to give a big round of applause for the Global Pea Outlook panel. All right, well, we are now entering into the final stages of our meeting. We actually will have a general GPC, a General Assembly meeting here in about 5 minutes. If you'd like to stick around, we're going to have our financial report from your treasurer, yours truly, which will be an excellent report, always is. So please stick around if you'd like. If not, in about 5 minutes, we'll do our General Assembly meeting. I would like to thank our session sponsor, Societe Kofeka, for sponsoring this Global Pea Outlook. Also, tonight, just to remind you that there will be the gala dinner tonight, and it'll actually be right here in this room at 7 o'clock. So we do have 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock cocktail reception. And the doors will open to this room at about, let's see, about 7:50 or so. So please, we'll see you back here for the reception at 6 o'clock.